Well, this election would be fairly predictable coming up to the end. I know that's actually a lie because we've had one of the wildest election swings and seasons that we can possibly see, but right at the end of it, we could have a situation where war were declared. What's that? Oh, war were declared. Not really yet, but, you know, being a millennial and a core millennial, I've seen this story before, but we'll talk about what is happening with the 101st Airborne in Israel, what the mainstream media wants you to believe, and what parallels this draws to 2001 and beyond. So we'll go over everything that is fit to talk about with that and where we go. In other news, the shooter slash attempted shooter in the second Trump assassination let a chilling letter come out offering $150,000 to anybody who would complete his mission, since he has failed and he knew that the letter would only come out if he did fail. We'll go over what was in the letter, whether or not the National Security Office has painted a target on Trump's back because of this letter, and also a weird connection on something that happened right before the first assassination attempt that only just came out this past week, that the mainstream media is labeling as a third assassination attempt. We'll go over all of that, everything that's going on with that, and where we go from that. A Fed rate cut will change the dynamics and the math going into this election. But will it be too little too late as we hear about a dock workers strike coming up at the worst possible time for a Democratic administration, and another big round of layoffs in entertainment? So we'll go over a lot of the economy, what's happening there, and what we do with that. And the SEC has now found a reason to go after ex-owner Elon Musk, based on something that he did / didn't do for a congressional hearing. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So grab some friends, get into the room, get some chatter going on, because the more you chat, the more we get up to the front of the page. And baby, run, cut a path across the blue skies, straight in a straight line, you can't get here fast enough. Find a truck and fire it up. Lean on the gas and off the clutch, leave Dallas in the dust. I need you in a rush, so baby, run. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. You know, I'm constantly reminded of the fact that when I do get something nice and upbeat from the Video Game Study Lounge, and thank you again to Game Chops for providing me great uncopyright banned music to put on the back of my stream in case, a microphone goes down, or in case we go somewhere into silence or anything else like that, to just keep something going on in the background here. But on the Instagram side, you can see the Epic Dance Party, but all the music is coming through here. So those of you who are watching this replay over on Instagram right now have no idea why I was just dancing, because you can't hear what I was listening to, but you know that I'm sitting out here. And there's no title card on Instagram either. So, like, those of you on the YouTube, the Twitch, you'll get the black and yellow, the label that my former co-host Elaine so generously made to look like a Johnny Walker Black label. Shout out to Elaine Joan for that, because that was really, really awesome of her to do. But, I mean, on the main channels, you guys see that. On the Instagram, they just see me dancing or doing setup or a bunch of stuff like that. So, but I mean, yeah, you heard on the main channels too how upbeat that was. The dance party is real, and if you're listening on the audio platform, you heard it, but you didn't get to see the dance party. Hi, my name is Jay Edgar. We have a bunch of stuff to go over here today. Like, the bar on the top this time through actually looks somewhat normal for once in a very, very long time. I think we'll get through everything, but I know that Magua is going to come in and say that we're going to go on for Thursday because I got to pull out a map. You know, our libertarian friends, they'll tell us, hey, you're not allowed to talk about foreign conflict unless you can point to it on the map. So, hey, we're going to go point to it on a map just to give them the finger. But we got a bunch of stuff here tonight. We've got a bunch of stuff I like and a bunch of stuff I hate. The stuff I like, stuff I hate tab is actually almost as full as the main tab this week. So we got a lot to go over there. Whoops. That doesn't go over there. Luckily, I did not have the screen sharing up yet at the time because for whatever reason, my streaming software decided to default to the middle screen. So we'll have to go figure out what's going on with that and where we go. Anyway, before we get started, make sure you guys, number one, go tell somebody about Contemporary. Because we don't grow without word of mouth. I am algorithmically demoted on my news streams for YouTube and Twitch. Not on Rumble, oddly enough, but I'm algorithmically demoted on those. However, the algorithm does favor a lot of chat, so the more chat you give, the more we get promoted up to the front. And yes, of course, the more people you tell, the more people come in here as well. If you cannot make it live, you can catch us on the audio platform or a fresh upload on the replay on YouTube. I private the live stream as soon as we're done. It's still up there, but you can't get at it anymore. And I re-upload the whole video. I'm recording this as we go. And you get a fresh copy straight across my video and audio card from my computer. Just in case we have a hiccup in the connection or Spectrum decides to suck or something else like that. You get a fresh raw copy, including me complaining about Spectrum on the few instances that it goes down. So there's that. Also, check out great programming such as Overruled with KTZed, who KTZed just resubscribed for another month over on the Twitch side. Thank you for that. That's $2.50 right in my pocket. There it goes. And the Daily Ignoramus with Stephen Ignoramus. Go check out both of those great programs, great friends of mine who have a lot of good things to say. I will endorse what it is that they say fully. Yes, even the wild and out of left field stuff that Steven says off the wall, I still endorse it because he's an awesome guy. Go check them out. You're going to love it, I promise. And let's get down into the news. We're going to start a little bit with finance today because as we're coming into the election, finance and polling is going to be important. So let's get this up and let's get started. And if you're on the main channels, YouTube, Twitch, I cut D-Live so you can't see it over there. You'll get to see what it is that you say up on the screen. Rumble, I can't do that, but Rumble, I'm also letting you get a little bit spicier. And I kind of don't want that up on the screen. I've seen some of the stuff that you say over the Helix. I enjoy it, but the Google people do not. I can tell you that. All right. Whoops. I want to keep that playing over on there. Just bring it up to live. Let's get the live chat up here. Palm is over here. First, maybe second. No, Palm was first. But I was teasing a little bit in the chat. Me pointing out, even though I didn't get started until 6:08, a wizard is never late. A wizard arrives exactly when he wants to arrive. Should take your own song advice. I don't have a truck with a clutch right now. Yeah, nice dance moves. Grant says, J. Edgar was busy deleting the social media posts that were of him and the diddler. I don't have any Diddy news on here, and I couldn't find anything mainstream to talk about the people that were going over that. I will talk about that on things that I hate, but there won't be a news tab that goes with that. That's why he wasn't late. Correct. All right. Let's look at the Dow, which did take another record today, but I do get wary about this, especially coming up into an election season, where I'm looking to see if people get the outcome that they want or the outcome that the investors want or whatever, whichever that they do. Like, yeah, we're seeing some really good numbers. Number one, they're in inflated Biden bucks because the actual dollar amount does correspond to the point on the Dow Jones summary. And number two, and this is the more important, there are going to be a lot of people who are looking to get that last minute cash out before election day as people come back and speculate and buy wisely or foolishly as they go, and will hold on for dear life if they get the outcome they want out of the election, or will do a quick pump and dump if they get the outcome that they don't like. And really, honestly, with Wall Street right now, I don't know which outcome that they want. They say that the Republican Party is the party of the rich, and Donald Trump is a billionaire and he wants to give away a bunch of stuff to his billionaire buddies. But you guys, I've been tracking the FEC finance donations, and a large amount of the big business billionaires in this country are donating to Biden right now, partially because he puts regulations, well, Harris I should say, because they are going to, either one of them, going to put regulations in that will weigh down their independent competition, the people who are trying to make startups and upstarts that are going to upset the apple cart and give them competition. Hey, if you can't compete because you're overregulated, oh, I guess we just have to go to the big billionaires' product or service instead. So it's worth noting, I don't know what's going to happen with these numbers here come November. I think that they are going to go up a little bit more before November. I do. I don't think the rate hike is, or the rate cut is going to do it. I think it's going to be mostly speculative, honestly. But I don't have a crystal ball, so we will see what happens there. Let's read briefly from CNBC. Kamala is trying to suck-start the economy. Giggity. Alright, from CNBC, a little bit of live updates here from Brian Evans and Ha-Kyung Kim. The S&P rises to new record highs Tuesday, post back-to-back gains. The S&P rose to a fresh record on Tuesday and largely shook off a weak consumer confidence reading thanks to a sharp rise in Nvidia. The broad market index advanced 0.25% to 5732.93. The Dow added 83.57 points, or 0.2%, to close at 42,208.22. Both indices hit intraday all-time highs and closed at records. The Nasdaq also added 0.56 and ended at 18,074.52. Shares of AI darling Nvidia climbed nearly 4% after a regulatory filing showed that CEO Jensen Huang wrapped up his sales of the chipmaker stock for the time being. Consumer confidence suffered its biggest one-month decline in more than 3 years, hitting 98.7 for September. Economists polled by Dow Jones expected a reading of 104. So that's, again, a part of the reason that I don't know that I trust these numbers entirely, because I don't think that it's really reflective of new sales and desire for the services that these companies put out, and more speculation hoping to get one outcome or the other out of the election. And again, I don't know which way it fucking goes. The data follows a warning from JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon about geopolitical instability getting worse, and being his biggest caution, he added that the worrisome backdrop could influence the state of economy moving forward. Essentially, when you take them both together, they keep the wall of worry built, Evercore ISI Senior Managing Director Julian Emanuel said on CNBC's Squawk on the Street on Tuesday. We would be more concerned if we started hearing everything's great or everything's roses. China stocks stood out Tuesday following stimulus efforts from Beijing to stoke economic growth. U.S.-listed shares of Alibaba and JD.com climbed 7.9% and 13.9% respectively. Industrial stock Caterpillar advanced close to 4%. The major averages are heading for solid monthly gains. The Dow is up about 1.6% in September, while the S&P is on track to rise 1.5%. The Nasdaq is on pace for a 2% jump this month. Some of those gains came as investors grow hopeful that the Federal Reserve's rate cuts will drive economic growth and boost profits, and I don't think that's going to happen, honestly. I think it's going to do a few things, but mostly I think it's just going to make houses more expensive. Jeez, Grant, why don't you tell us how you really feel? Let's see. Grant says Kamala's past associates either say she sucks or blows. Kamala's trying to get a rise out of the economy. Wait, so the economy is male? Apparently. Kamala's border policy is to let loads of men come in. And Palm says, I thought she was slightly more targeted in those efforts. Well, we will see. Let's look at polling. And then we will get into our wartime news. With a few new polls coming in this week, mostly in favor of Harris, still only bringing her up to a 2.1% spread, oddly enough. Even with a Reuters Ipsos with a +6, a CBS News at +4, and a Morning Consult at +5, with a Quinnipiac at a tie and a CNN +1. We're at a 2.1 point spread. Harris at 49.2, Trump at 47.1. For the polls, we can do a quick sweep through the battlegrounds. But reminder that at this point in history, Biden was up at 6.9 points up and Clinton was up at 3 points up. Which means Clinton was up higher at this point in the race, but still lost, and Biden was up way higher. And, well, 80 million votes, folks. Looking in at the battlegrounds quickly. Arizona is Trump plus 2.2 in the aggregate, with all recent polls pointing towards Trump, but we don't really have a lot very recently. The most recent is New York Times Siena that ran from the 17th to the 21st. But Arizona also has polling that's still on the aggregate. That's going back to August. Nevada is at Harris plus 0.4, with also, again, not a lot of really good polling, going again all the way back in August, with only 5 still in the aggregation. Wisconsin currently has Harris up +1. I do think that Harris takes Wisconsin because of ballot drop boxes. But a bit more mixed messaging off of that one, and more recent polling as well. Michigan, Harris plus 1.8. Michigan, I think, could go the other way. The union vote is still going to hold that up, I think. But a lot, especially if she continues to go down the road of Israel, and Israel first, a lot of the resettled Islamics in Detroit stand to stay home. Last polling ending at 9:19, also for Michigan. Pennsylvania, Harris plus 0.6, with Clinton being up plus 5.6 in Pennsylvania. And losing Pennsylvania, by the way, in 2016. With a fresh round of recent polling out of there, thanks to Insider, Maris, The Hill, and Rasmussen. And a big round of polling that's either tie or Trump plus. So we'll see where that one goes. North Carolina, which I don't believe is in play even, is Trump plus 0.5. I think North Carolina is a little bit redder than that. And Georgia is at Trump plus 2.1. I think Trump takes Georgia. Electoral map. Harris Walls have 215 with 139 safe, 52 likely, and 24 maybe or lean, with Trump and Vance holding 93 for sure, 38 likely, and 88 lean, and 104 in the toss-up, including Nevada, Arizona, Minnesota. I can't believe we're in a situation where Minnesota is in play right now. Even under the Reagan landslide, Minnesota went Democrat. So that's surprising. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. I don't think North Carolina is in play. I don't think Arizona is in play. And I don't think Georgia is in play. I think Wisconsin does go Harris. Michigan could go either way to me. Minnesota, I don't have a pulse on because I've never been looking for it. And I do think Pennsylvania goes Trump. I think the fracking thing, fuck them. But I think that Pennsylvania goes Trump in a squeaker. I think that one might go to recount, honestly. All right, anyway, that's our polling news for the day. Let's get into the main news. From NBC. Breaking, Congress unanimously passes a bill to boost Secret Service for presidential candidates. I did want to talk about that on things that I like, but I didn't get it into the stack. Let's look at the breaking news here, but we might move this one down. The Senate unanimously passed legislation Tuesday to boost Secret Service protection for presidential candidates, sending the bill to the White House for Biden's signature. The strong show of bipartisan support came days after the House passed the measure, known as the Enhanced Presidential Security Act, without any opposition in a 405-0 vote. The bill would give former President Trump and Vice President Harris the same level of protection provided to Biden. At only 3 pages long, the bill gives broad discretion to the Secret Service on how to apply measures to reach that level. Let's talk about that a little bit later. We'll go into this a little bit more. And let's get back to the thing that we were talking about with this. Grant says, Kamal got a quick rise in the polls, but is now deflating, something she is familiar with. Kamal's used to being on the bottom. Kamala doesn't understand foreign policy. When you let others fuck you, you're supposed to get them to pay you, not you pay them. Grant, did Sal get a hold of your YouTube account? Blink twice or you're being held hostage. North Carolina might be being affected by the governor's race. That's possible too. No one cares about Nevada. I think a lot of people care about Nevada because of the service industry, which typically goes blue, but also the relatively conservative areas surrounding Vegas. I just wish we got more polling out of it. Walls unflavored tacos aren't doing it for Minnesota, eh? Oh, don't you know there? We've got the best tacos up there. The taco meat is, it's nice and bland the way that it's supposed to be, eh? Alright, for our title card for the day, U.S. to send troops to be ready to help evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon. So that's what the media is telling you that this is to evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon. I don't think that that's what this is. Let's read on from this and I'll tell you what I think this is. Courtney Kube and Carol E. Lee, the Defense Department, plans to send a few dozen U.S. troops to the Middle East in the coming days to be ready to help Americans flee a region, bracing for significant escalation in the simmering conflict between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon, according to 3 defense officials. The U.S. forces will add to the roughly 40,000 troops already in the region, which, by the way, is fucking hilarious to me because it was only a couple weeks ago that we heard, how did we hear? This is the first time in history that there are no U.S. troops in active combat zones. A presence that's grown as the war between Israel and Hamas continued and tensions with Hezbollah intensified. The new troops will have a different mission, the official said, specifically to be on standby if the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah threatens Americans and evacuations are needed. The Pentagon Press Secretary, Major General Pat Ryder, he is a fine example of a modern Major General, by the way, said Monday that the U.S. was sending a small number of additional American forces to augment our forces that are already in the region. He declined to identify how many of the additional troops would be deployed, why or where, citing operational security. It looks like they're going to Negev and Cyprus, which tells me it's probably time to get the map out. So let's do that. First off, let's get this back up off the screen because I know that's going to do that. Alright, let's get you on the map. So, airbase in Negev, obviously. Let's pull this out, and we're in southern Israel for that. Oddly enough, far, far away from Lebanon, however, there's large amounts of occupied territory in between here and there. I'll be talking about the bombing in Nazareth later too. Let's grab Cyprus. Did my mouse just die? No, it didn't. There it is. I do have to plug that in at some point. So yes, and then we have our air base here in Cyprus, which I don't know who officially has a hold of Cyprus. I think it's Turkey has Cyprus, with a disputed border over here. Everything is in Greek on the map, but we do have an air base in Cyprus, and then we also have one in Negev, which is where our troops are going to be deploying to. So I don't know what it is that Negev is supposed to do. Cyprus actually makes a little bit of sense because it makes a good staging point for an airborne division to pull people out of Beirut and Lebanon. Alright, let's come back here. Grant says, I guess the white dudes for Harris really isn't grabbing the white men in the swing states. Well, I think that's what Harris is for, to grab the white men in the swing states. How much longer before there is a map stream? We just did a map right there. Biden admin officials are concerned about a lack of understanding about what Israel's plans are when it comes to conflict with Hezbollah, an issue that's also arisen at times during Israel's war against Hamas. On Monday, Israel dramatically expanded its aerial assaults in Lebanon with airstrikes that killed nearly 500 people and wounded more than 1,600. Again, pulling out of the optics win that they had up until Christmas of last year. Can you believe that this has been going on for almost a year at this point? October 7th, which is in 2 weeks, marked the beginning of this. While the Biden admin and Israeli government officials speak and meet frequently, Biden, of course, does not speak and meet frequently, but his administration does. Israel's not been sharing detailed information about its military movements, according to the 3 U.S. defense officials. There is growing concern that in the admin that nearly a year since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas, the U.S. has lost the ability to prevent a wider conflict, which they never fucking had to begin with, despite the months of intensive efforts, and that any hope of a ceasefire deal in Gaza has diminished. Israel and Hezbollah have been launching more missile attacks at each other. Israel ratcheted up tensions with an operation last week detonating explosives and pagers and walkie-talkies it had secretly supplied to Hezbollah militants. So, the mainstream media is going to make this into an innocent thing. They're going to come in and say, yes, they're only going in there because we need to get our troops out in case that there's a major war. Again, reminder that we were just told at the debate that there are no U.S. troops in an active combat zone. Whoops. But I look at this and I look back at some of the troop lead up going into the invasion of Afghanistan and furthermore the invasion of Iraq. Everything that led up into Operation Iraqi Freedom. I mean, it's common knowledge at this point when we're in a wartime situation. They even talked about this. The Democrats on the mainstream media in 2004 said Bush is going to have a major advantage over Kerry coming into this because of the fact that the people don't want to change horses in the middle of a stream. Meaning they don't want to switch parties or administrations in the middle of a war. It's one of the great constants of our political system for whatever reason that I can't even begin to understand. But the American people are skittish and have been historically to change a political party in the middle of a major conflict. FDR wrote that much longer than he needed to. I think Wilson even tried to ride that, but then he had a major fucking stroke. And if, for whatever weird reason, and I don't know why this would ever happen, it would be so weird if something like this would ever happen, but if for whatever weird reason, one of our troops were to happen to die in the middle of going through this, oh, well, that was an act of aggression against the U.S. Guess what we're about to do? I don't have any trust in this at all. As being just an innocent, get in, get out, get our troops out kind of thing. I look at something like this, I watch something like this, and I sit back and I remember what 2001, 2002, and 2003 were like. And how quickly we got embroiled into one of the longest continual situations in recent history. A little bit more from the New York Post. U.S. sending more troops to Middle East as latest Israel-Hezbollah fighting sparks fear of an all-out war from Caitlin Dornbos. The U.S. is sending additional troops to the Middle East and urging Americans to leave Lebanon as Israel moves towards all-out war with the Iranian proxy terror group Hezbollah. Major General Pat Ryder made the deployment announcement on Monday but provided no additional information regarding the number of additional troops or their intended mission, citing operational security. There were indications that at least some of the additional forces would come from the Navy, where you can sail the seven seas, as the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier and its strike group deployed from Norfolk, Virginia on Monday, about a month before they were originally scheduled to depart. Should the ship arrive in the Middle East, it will bring the U.S. back to a two-carrier presence in the region, and the USS Abraham Lincoln remains in the Arabian Sea amid Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza and increasing attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Also on Monday, the State Department urged U.S. citizens in Lebanon to seek out ways to leave the volatile country while transportation options remain. Due to the unpredictable nature of the ongoing conflict between Hezbollah and Israel and recent explosions throughout Lebanon, including Beirut, the U.S. Embassy urges U.S. citizens to depart Lebanon while commercial options are still available, the State Department said in an updated advisory. At this time, commercial flights are available, but at a reduced capacity if the security situation worsens. Commercial options to depart may become unavailable, the statement added. What do you want to bet that a plane gets shot down at some point within this? Just watched a documentary about FDR during World War II today. I apologize for having to go through something like that. FDR really was kind of a fucking prick, though. From the Associated Press. Let's skip that one. They're just repeating the same stuff. Now let's talk about, I guess, what led up to all this here. Ken Mazig. How does bombing Nazareth, a city that's 70% Arab and 30% Christian, contribute to free Palestine? Asking for a friend. It's a show of force at that point. And also trying to pull in to a broader conflict. We've got no sound with this one. But we've got the aftermath of the bomb that went off. Just burning up under a random street in Nazareth. Besides, I mean, if it's this is YouTube. I don't know that I can make that joke. I think that one might get me the boot. We're not going to do that one. That might be a little bit too far. From ABC 7 Eyewitness News out of Chicago, Hezbollah hits back with more than 100 rockets across a wider and deeper area of Israel, from Natalie Melzer and Karim Shehayab out of the Associated Press. Hezbollah launched more than 100 rockets early Sunday across a wider and deeper area of northern Israel, with some landing near the city of Haifa. As Israel launched hundreds of strikes on Lebanon, the sides appear to be spiraling towards an all-out war following months of escalating tensions. The rocket barrage overnight was in response to Israeli attacks in Lebanon that have killed dozens, including a veteran Hezbollah commander, and an unprecedented attack targeting a group's communication devices. It set off air raid sirens across northern Israel, sending thousands of people scrambling into shelters. Let's get the map back out, and I know we had this up here before. We've got Haifa, of course, and Nazareth, with Hezbollah launching attacks across each. I'm a little surprised Nazareth is not a more active hub in the area, just based on its historic position. The rocket barrage overnight was in response, I saw that one, to Israeli attacks in Lebanon that have killed dozens. One rocket struck near a residential building in Kiryat Bialik, a community near Haifa, wounding at least 3 and setting buildings and cars on fire. Israel's Magen David Adom Rescue Service said that a total of 4 people were wounded by shrapnel in the barrage. Avi Vazana raced to shelter with his wife and 9-month-old baby before he heard the boom of the rocket hitting in Kiryat Bialik. Then he went back outside to see if anyone was hurt. I ran without shoes, without a shirt, only with pants. I ran to this house when everything was still on fire to try to find if there were other people, he said. Bravo. Props for bravery. Lebanon's health ministry said that 3 people were killed and another 4 wounded in Israeli strikes near the border, without saying whether they were civilians or combatants. Well, and that's a part of the problem that we have with all this in both situations. With the hatred for the other, a lot of the target is on civilian targets and not military assets. It is one of the things I will applaud the foreign policy of the Biden admin for, and I won't do a lot of that. Because, well, let's face it, I think their foreign policy is fucking stupid. But what I will give them is the fact that when they did do targeted strikes, either retaliatory or just to be a show of force, it has been predominantly focused on military targets, which has not always been the case in situations of war that we've been in recent times. Like we said, when we look at Lebanon, when we look at Israel, when we look at Gaza, and when we look at what Gaza did to Israel on October 7th, the vast majority of people who have been targeted as hostages, as bomb targets, etc., have been civilians. It's been the same thing with at least incursions into the Ukraine, but also it looks like with the rocket strikes that the Ukraine are looking to point back into Russia, that they're also planning on taking down civilian targets, not military targets. The Mogwai is here. It says the game of Risk has a stronger foreign policy. What about the game of Civilization? Palm and I just watched or listened to a documentary on Civilization, or at least its creator, the other day. I learned a lot of stuff about that. Now I kind of want to play Civ 1. Let's see. The barrage came after an Israeli airstrike in Beirut on Friday killed at least 45 people, including one of Hezbollah's top leaders, as well as women and children. I was going to say, yeah, we got the military target, but who else had to die to go with it? Oh, did we get a resub? Let's check the... Yep. The Mog resubscribed for 6 months at Tier 1. They've been subscribed for 17 months. The mock says he is late, but I was not late today. A wizard is never late. Hezbollah was already reeling from a sophisticated attack that caused thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies to explode just days earlier, which again took out civilians in the process. Netanyahu said Israel would take whatever action was necessary to restore security in the north and allow people to return to their homes. No country can accept the wanton rocketing of its cities. We can't accept it either, he said. Which is funny because you've got the Iron Dome that's supposed to protect you from that. Apparently that's starting to break down and fail too. The Israeli military said it carried out a wave of strikes across southern Lebanon over the past 24 hours, hitting about 400 militant sites, including rocket launchers. Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani, an Israeli military spokesperson, said those strikes had thwarted an even larger attack. Well, I'm going to have to take your word for it because you've brought no evidence that there was a larger attack there. You just shot the enemy and said, oh look, larger attack. UN envoy warns the region is on brink of catastrophe. Well, it's been on the brink of catastrophe for 4,000 years. Why should this be any fucking different? I need to do my Star Wars marathon. Israel and Hezbollah have traded fire since the outbreak of the war in Gaza nearly a year ago, when the militant group began firing rockets in solidarity with the Palestinians and its fellow Iran-backed ally Hamas. The low-level fighting has killed dozens of people in Israel, hundreds in Lebanon, and displaced tens of thousands on both sides of the frontier. Until recently, neither side was believing to be seeking an all-out war. Bullshit! And Hezbollah has so far stopped short of targeting Tel Aviv or any other major civilian infrastructure. But in recent weeks, Israel shifted its focus from Gaza to Lebanon and vowed to bring back calm to the border so its citizens can return to their homes. Hezbollah has said that it would only halt its attacks if there was a ceasefire in Gaza, which appears increasingly elusive. Which has been offered, by the way, from Israel over and over again and has been denied. Now, I want to remind you, of course, and this is where I get frustrated with foreign policy. The Associated Press and ABC7 will tell you that, oh yeah, no, they're only doing border strikes. Meanwhile, right at the beginning, we hear strikes in Beirut. Does this look like this is anywhere fucking near the border to you? Let me pan that out so you can see the big heavy-ass black line. Does that look like that's anywhere near the Israel border to you? I think Netanyahu is full of fucking shit. Can I say that on YouTube? And the last one that we have on this, we'll shift to stateside after this. Suspicious items in Lower Nazareth deemed safe after bomb squad investigation. I have no author given on this one. Officials say suspicious batteries are what caused Bethlehem City's bomb squad to respond to a home in Lower Nazareth Township. Which, by the way, if all these towns sound familiar to you, they should. The incident happened at a home in Willow Lane near Hemlock Lane on Saturday night. Wait. Hold on. I'm reading this a little bit closer here. This is in Pennsylvania. Read the article closer, moron. Okay. Well, hey, let's go through this at least while we're going with this. Officials from Colonial Regional Police say residents of the house had purchased storage items in New York City, and when opened the items in their home, some of them looked suspicious. Police responded to the Willow Lane home and also found the items to be suspicious at the time, calling the Bethlehem Fire Department bomb squad for a response. That's not fair. Because there's a Bethlehem near Nazareth in Israel, too. But yes, the people in Pennsylvania are safe as well. Alright. Well, since we did bring that one back stateside, let me get rid of a few of these here. And then we will go talk about the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez. From the Hill, Ocasio-Cortez has office tagged with blood-splattered signs after pager attack remarks. From Julianne Ventura. The Honorable and Venerable Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, who says it's racist or misogynistic to just call her AOC, in spite of the fact that's what her X handle is, at AOC, said her house office was tagged with blood-splattered signs accusing her of supporting terrorism after she condemned Israel for a series of explosions across Lebanon, including pagers that targeted members of a militant group Hezbollah. Okay, Papi, yesterday my health office was tagged with blood-splattered signs, accusing me of supporting terrorism after I questioned the pager operation, which clearly runs counter to U.S. policy. Chavez wrote Friday in a post on the social platform X, which is funny because as much as people will joke about the Israeli influence in U.S. elections and U.S. policy, they are still a sovereign country. Which means we can say everything that we want about them violating U.S. policy, but they're under no contract to follow U.S. policy. That's officially between them and Lebanon. Yes, I think it was extremely brutal and stupid, but that's between them and Lebanon. They must live under a rock to know I take about the bully, she said. On Wednesday, Chavez posted on X about a series of explosions on pagers in Lebanon. We know about what happened with that. We talked about that last week. Anthony Blinken said Wednesday the U.S. was not involved and did not know about the pager attacks ahead of time. This attack clearly and unequivocally violates international humanitarian law and undermines U.S. efforts to prevent a wider conflict, Ocasio-Chavez wrote in a post on Wednesday. Congress needs full accounting, okay, Papi, of the attack, including an answer from the State Department as to whether any U.S. assistance went into the development or deployment of this technology. I'm going to go with a no on that one. So, officially, if you have a political gripe with somebody in Congress, you should not be vandalizing and tagging their offices. Picket, peacefully assemble, of course, but you should not be in and doing any sort of vandalism. Unofficially, given the fact that Ocasio-Cortez herself has occupied and encouraged protests making people uncomfortable, and trying to encourage leftoids to do that to Republicans and Democrats that she doesn't like. Unofficially, ha, 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 you got what you deserved. This is what you dish out to other people, by the way. But officially, no. Do not use vandalism against somebody else's office. Alright, further stateside. Get rid of the map for now. In assassination attempt number 2 from CBS News, feds say they will seek charges of attempted assassination against Trump golf course suspect from Melissa Quinn and Manuel Bojorquez. Federal prosecutors said Monday they will seek to charge the suspect discovered by the Secret Service with a high-powered rifle in the bushes near former President Trump with attempted assassination of a political figure. Ryan Routh, 58, already faces two federal firearms charges stemming from the September 15th incident outside Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. He appeared in federal court Monday, during which a federal magistrate judge ordered he remained detained until trial, which means that he's going to get a hold of the tissue paper like bedsheet. And, well, we've seen this story before. Routh was denied bond and deemed a flight risk and potential danger to the community. He is represented by a federal public defender, and his attorney's office said Monday that she wouldn't be commenting. Prosecutors said during the hearing that they intend to ask the grand jury to return a new indictment with the additional charge, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. The coconut one? Yeah, it probably wasn't going to be good by Saturday anyway, so. If the stool is a rockin', don't come a knockin'. And turn those cameras off. Ahead of the hearing, government lawyers provided more details about the incident in a detention memo, calling for Routh to remain behind bars until the trial. They revealed that months before the apparent assassination attempt, the suspect left a box with a man that contained ammunition, a metal pipe, building materials, tools, 4 phones, and letters. One of the letters was addressed Dear World and read, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and I gave it all the gumption I could muster." According to the memo, the handwritten letter also included a bounty. Prosecutors said the man, later identified as Routh, and the barrel of a firearm were spotted by a Secret Service agent in the bushes along the fence line at Trump's golf course while he was playing. No shots were fired at Trump, but the agent fired at the suspect, who fled. Recovered from the scene was an AK-style rifle with a scope attached and an extended mag. According to federal law enforcement, the gun was loaded with 11 rounds and the serial number on the rifle was obliterated. We know all that. The incident marked the second time in a matter of weeks which Trump was targeted and a gunman opened fire at the former president in Butler. The FBI and a bipartisan congressional task force are investigating the assassination attempt in Butler, and the scope of the lawmakers' probe was expanded to include the latest incident in South Florida. So, there is a lot going on here. Now, first and foremost, this one, I don't have a confirmation. Actually, I found this while we were live, while one of the title cards was up. I glanced over on X and I saw Eileen Cannon, and I thought I was going to hear, "Oh, Trump appointee and, justice this and bring back the documents case." No, I guess she actually wound up assigned, quote, randomly to this case. So Eileen Cannon is going to be trying this case. I would honestly almost expect a recusal from that. But let's face it, some leptoid judge out there would probably let the guy go and give him a fucking medal. So, I'm torn on that one. I want to talk about the letter. Because federal agents released the letter. Now, CBS said that only included a bounty. The federal agents, when they released it, told us how much the bounty was, which bothers me. Bothers me for a couple reasons, actually, when I look at this, when I look at where this went and what we do with this. Because I think we're going to get another one of these, honestly. Especially if people think that it's going to be somewhere fiscally lucrative. Now, when we look at this, and there was apparently a third attempt that was foiled before the Crooks attempt in July. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But when we look at the fact that now, It was brought up by a lot of MAGA fans right from about the middle of Trump's term that the, quote, deep state was going to kill him and they were going to use the FBI. They were going to hope to shoot him. They were hoping that he would resist in the Mar-a-Lago raid so that they'd go about and shoot him and all sorts of different things. No. I'm hesitant to say the CW words that Tim Pool loves to scream as much as he does. But I will say the actual government action going against the Donald would cause that war, which may or may not be civil. Because it is the government going, especially after he's out of office, a private citizen. And let's face it, they've been hoping to come back out and do this. But I don't believe in the fact that they would go back out and directly have one of their agents go back and do the dirty work. They're more politically savvy than that, and let's face it, they're more fucking cowardly than that. What they would do, and I've talked about this for years, and it's almost appears to be what it is that they did, was they continued to scream the rhetoric over and over again. He's a Nazi. He's the next coming of Hitler. He's going to bind all women in chains to their stoves, naked and barefoot, and not allowed to get abortions so their husbands can rape them and make them pregnant, and they have to carry it to term even if they hate their husbands, and they'll be assigned to a husband, and they won't get a choice in the matter, and it'll just be the greedy Republican men, and they're gonna deport all the Africans and all the Mexicans, and Muslim ban this, and dictator on day one that, and this cycle of over and over again saying that this person is going to do that. Meanwhile, grooming people over and over again in online Discord groups of, hey, don't you hate what the media is saying about this guy? And one of them is either going to have the rifle or have means to the rifle, as this jackass was able to do. And the next thing we know, we get JFK 2.0. And I've long said they're going to go back to try to JFK the guy. Rohan Van Steerd. Welcome. I don't know if I know that name, but welcome. We got to keep going. Man charged wrote, this was an assassination attempt. Court filing shows. I do like the fact that there wasn't the amount in most of the mainstream news reporting. And again, a reminder that the DOJ did put the amount out. I honestly think that the MSM does not want to see the deletion of the former president. I think they'd like to see him put in prison, but I don't think they want to see him in delete. I don't think I've opened Twitch in 2 years, so that I'd explain it. Well, welcome back. I've moved since then. Although it wasn't too much 2 years ago, it wasn't too much before I moved. New York Post with a picture of the letter here. And yeah, and something I completely disagree with rather on this here. The New York Post posted the amount. Now, for rules that I've made up on the spot here, I'm not going to say the amount. You can see it on the screen if you are watching on YouTube, on Twitch, or on the replay on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio platform, you can't see it, but I mean, I'm going to come right out and say all the other right-wing newscasters are talking about this here, so I don't necessarily need to. But when we throw an amount out like this, I'm watching for a copycat or somebody else to come back out and take him up on this again. These people have been told over and over again, like MK Ultra style, he's the devil, he's Satan incarnate, he's the more retarded version of Hitler. He hates everybody who isn't white. He's going to be a dictator day one. And let's face it, let's go back and look back. Do you think anybody would have blamed somebody for going back in time and taking a shot at Stalin? At Hitler? I mean, that's a regular joke in mainstream comedy. Do we have the opportunity to kill Hitler? Oh yeah, we did. Laugh, it's funny. But I wanted to touch on this. From Time magazine, Iran, Trump, and the third assassination plot. Now this follows also in with our next story about, what's that C word that our friends over on the left like to yell if it's a Republican candidate against a Democrat? Collusion! Let's read a bit about this and then we'll move on into that story. From Carl Vick. Asif Merchant was arrested on July 12th, which was the day before Thomas Crooks took the shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, by the way. Stephen King book about going back in time to save Kennedy was awesome. Yeah, but it's Stephen King, so you're a horse apiece there. He had just loaded his luggage into his ride at the airport, commencing the journey either to his wife and children in Iran or to a different wife and children in his native Pakistan. In weeks of secretly recorded conversations with the federal informant, Merchant had confided that he had families in both countries. He also, according to an FBI affidavit, said that he had come to America to arrange the assassination of a political person. The identity of that person was not explicitly stated, either by Merchant or by his handler in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, according to the leaked document that was posted online by Chuck Grassley on September 5th, after the Republican said it was provided to him by a whistleblower. But, along with the other evidence, the documents all but confirmed that Trump was the person Merchant was authorized to offer up to $1 million to kill. In the leaked document, Merchant described remotely scouting a Trump rally, then sending a written report on event security, how many guards, how many body scanners, back to Tehran, in secretly recorded meetings described by the FBI after his arrest. Merchant games out the assassination with the informant. The plan he details involved a crowd, a staged demonstration intended to serve as a distraction, a target at a podium, and security all around. Well, not too many people that could be describing. Alerted to the Iranian plot well before Merchant's arrest, the Secret Service increased protection of Trump, context that only amplified the agency's failure when an assassin's bullet grazed the former president at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. I am told up and down that this Crooks person did not have any connection to Iran. Whether or not he did, I can't answer. But the agencies that want me to believe everything that they say tell me that he absolutely 100% did not have any connection there. Now, with that being said, Ryan Routh did. He was strongly in support of both the Ukraine and the Iranian missions in their respective regions. Whether or not he actually had a financial connection with Iran would have yet to be seen, and even if he did, I doubt it would ever get released. But this could possibly be the third, or impossible, the first assassination attempt. Or again, we're sitting in a situation where I don't 100% disbelieve that this person had nothing to do with Crooks. Especially when they talk about the rally, the podium, and security all around. Possibly not Routh, based on where he made his attempt. Prosecutors made note of the passage in September 23rd court filing, in which they also singled out the reference to Iran in a Dear World letter Routh had left behind, explaining his reasons for trying to kill Trump. The handwritten letter above goes on to state in part, the former president ended relations with Iran like a child, and now the Middle East has unraveled. I don't know, it was pretty fucking peaceful when he left office. The official reports say that this attempt that Merchant did was a vengeance attempt for Soleimani. Which tracks. I mean, a lot of people in that region of the world were pretty pissed about that. Merchant's arrest, by contrast, has drawn relatively little attention. Of the 3 assassination plots exposed in as many months, it's the only one detected in advance and described in detail by a U.S. government already acutely aware of the threat Iran's leaders have been vowing to kill Trump for years, since he ordered the death of Soleimani. The documents released after Merchant's arrest tell a story of how serious that has proven to be. So, I really expect that we're going to get more of this. I really do. It's chilling, and it's going to put the balance of foreign policy into a large amount of question, but I do expect to see more of this. Speaking of Iran, let's shift gears here. Oh, we're not shifting gears just yet because I moved this one down here. Because this was breaking news at the beginning. Congress passes bill to boost presidential candidate security after apparent attempt on Trump's life. From Kate Santeliz, Kyle Stewart, and Raquel Coronel Uribe. The bill would give former President Trump and Vice President Harris the same level of protection provided to Biden, at only 3 pages long, which is a miracle in this Congress, by the way. The bill gives broad discretion to the Secret Service on how to apply measures to reach that level. And a unanimous vote, too, by the way. The Enhanced Presidential Security Act was introduced in the House by Reps Mike Lawler and Richie Torres, both of New York, opposite parties. Senator Rick Scott of Florida brought the legislation to the Senate floor. Following the House vote on Friday, Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe said during a press conference that Trump already is receiving the highest levels of Secret Service protection. Gee, I would fucking hope so. I mean, 3 people have officially tried to kill him at this point. He added that Trump was receiving everything Biden is with respect to Secret Service. He is a former president as well, by the way. So, on top of being a candidate for the office, he has the regular former president Secret Service protection, which is at the same level as the current sitting president. The passage of the bill comes as the House mulls a broader spending measure that includes a plan to provide an additional $231 million to the Secret Service. It also comes a day after Trump accused the DOJ of downplaying the alleged assassination plot against him in West Palm Beach. Trump was previously shot in the ear during an assassination attempt at a campaign rally in Butler on July 13th. So there's that. And on top of that, with the fact that we've gone into hot shots to try to take down political opponents, I don't have anything on the stack for this, but there's also talk of adding a constitutional amendment to allow for the rapid appointment of what would basically equate to be a vice representative for every district. So when a person goes and runs for and wins a congressional district, that person can put 1, 2, 3, I think they're talking up to 5 people in line to take his place if for whatever reason he were to get shot. I do want to read more about that before I report that, but I mean, political violence is beginning to be the norm. I don't care for it very much, and I like the fact that there are contingency plans in place for it. We will be talking more about that one next week because I do want to read up more on that one before I spout off on it. I'm not going to be like Poole and say, well, this is going to be great news and everybody in the world is going to support it. I don't think everybody in the world is going to support it. I like the idea, though. All right, now some more Iran stuff. Iranian hacker sent stolen Trump campaign information to people associated with the Biden campaign for Hannah Rabinovitz, Evan Perez, and Sean Langas. Iranian hacker sent unsolicited, that's what we're going to call it, unsolicited information they stole from Trump's presidential campaign to people who were affiliated with Biden's campaign over the summer, federal law enforcement officials said on Wednesday. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said in a joint statement that in late June, early July, Iranian malicious cyber actors sent unsolicited emails to individuals then associated with Biden's campaign that contained an excerpt taken from stolen non-public material from former President Trump's campaign as text in the emails. There's no indication Biden staff ever replied, the statement said. Yeah, I'm sure. A spokesperson for Harris's campaign said a few individuals were targeted on their personal emails. We have cooperated with the appropriate law enforcement authorities since we were made aware that individuals associated with the then Biden campaign were among the intended victims of this foreign influence operation, Morgan Finkelstein, a national security spokesperson for the Harris campaign, said. We're not aware of any material being sent directly to the campaign. A few individuals were targeted on their personal emails with what looked like a spam or phishing attempt. We condemn this in the strongest terms, any effort by foreign actors to interfere in the U.S. elections, including the unwelcome and unacceptable malicious activity. Oh yeah, tell me more. Tell me more, I totally believe you. A campaign official told CNN that the material was not used. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is collusion. Collusion! But of course we don't do that when it's Democrat candidates. And by the way, it's collusion with an enemy state on top of it. Like, this is exactly what the beginning of the Russian collusion hoax was. Alleged Russian actors were sending out unsolicited emails to Trump campaign people. Whether or not they used it, I don't know. DOJ reports said there was no collusion. But this is what they would call the collusion attempt. And, I mean, they're never going to say Democrats colluded with a foreign actor. They're say, oh, they never took it. They never even looked at it. We promised they never looked at it. All right. Let's take a break and listen to a man with a very bad voice tell us why we should support President Trump.
Hey everyone, I'm here today to tell you how we can make America healthy again. And the first thing you need to do is get one of these hats, and we need everyone walking around and wearing it everywhere they go. But that's not going to be nearly enough. That's why I'm partnering with President Donald Trump.
Dude, your voice sounds like that, and you're talking about making America healthy again. Come on.
To transform our nation's food, fitness, air, water, soil, and medicine. Our big priority will be to clean up the public health agencies like CDC, NIH, FDA, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Those agencies have become sock puppets the industries that they're supposed to regulate. President Trump and I are going to replace the corrupt industry captured officials with honest public servants. We're going to steer.
Those three words don't go together. Honest public servants.
Resources to meet our nation's biggest health challenge, chronic disease. We're going to identify its root cause, and we're going to eliminate those exposures. We're going to get toxic additives and pesticide residues out of our food. We're going to support the tens of millions of Americans who choose alternative and complementary medicine. We're going to become, once again, the healthiest nation on earth. That's what we mean by MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. If you want to support this vision, you can buy MAHA merch or donate to our website at mahanow.org.
Make America Healthy Again.
I like the sentiment. I do. Whether you can do it at a government level, especially with a Kennedy in your fucking cabinet. No, I don't buy that. Sorry, Bobby. I don't. And yes, honest public servants. That's an oxymoron if I've ever fucking heard one. Can you imagine listening to a full State of the Union in that voice? Alright. Let's talk rate cut. From CBS News, the Fed made its big cut on Wednesday. These products are already offering lower rates. From Amy Beachy. The Federal Reserve made a jumbo rate cut on Wednesday as the central bank said it now wants to ease up on its economic brakes. That decision is already trickling down to lower rates in some lending products, potentially providing financial relief to millions of Americans. As of Monday, American Express and U.S. Bank have lowered the offered APRs on several credit cards on their websites by a half percentage point, or the same amount the Fed's rate cut last week, according to Lending Tree Credit analyst Matt Schultz. Mortgage rates also dropped last week, decreasing to the lowest point since February 2023, according to Freddie Mac. But don't worry, it's not political. We're 45 days away from an election. Don't worry, it's not political. The Fed's rate reduction, the first since March of 2020, could help people in the market for a home or automobile purchase, oddly enough, right before an election, by making it more affordable to take out a mortgage or car loan. But even more importantly, the central bank has penciled in several more rate cuts for 24 and 25, which could result in significantly lower borrowing costs by this time next year. The real impact will come from future reductions, at least one of which is expected to come by the end of this year, Schultz told CBS Money Watch. The post-Fed cut reduction in credit cards, APRs, will probably only save the average credit card debtor a couple dollars per month off their bill, Schultz added. And that's, of course, if you only make the minimum payment, which you should not be doing. This is not official financial advice. That's certainly better than nothing, but it isn't going to change lives. Now, if you are paying more than your minimum monthly payment, then you'll get a little bit more into principal off the same payment, which is the way that you should be looking at it. Again, this is not official financial advice. The Fed's economic projections show that its members are pegging the median 2024 federal funds rate at 4.4%, while they're forecasting the rate to drop to 3.4% by the end of 25. That would represent a drop of about 2 percentage points through the end of 25, which could make a significant difference to borrowers in the market for a car, home, or other purchase. So this is going to change a little bit of the financial market. Now, with these credit cards in the place that they're at, the credit cards you already have are locked in. You will have that interest rate until you cut that card up or it expires. Whether or not you negotiate then with your credit card company, or if you get a different credit card at a different rate, that's going to be between you and your credit card company, and I'm not going to give you any advice for what to do with that. But yes, the average card interest rate in America is at 24.92, with most of them being at 24.99 or more that I've seen. According to LendingTree, which notes that it is tied with the highest since it's been tracking the average rates in 2019. It's likely more issuers will lower rates in the next week or two, with the vast majority of the rest following suit in October, Schultz said. But again, you will continue to have that rate that you already had through the rest of the time you hold that card. A half-point reduction to 24.42 will save about $1.50 a month in interest for a borrower with a $5,000 balance who pays $250 each month, Schultz calculated. A 1 percentage point reduction could save about $327 a month in interest, he noted. The average rate on a 30-year fixed fell to 6.09% for the week ending in September 19th, according to Freddie Mac. That represents a 0.11 percentage point decline from a week earlier and a 1.1 percentage point drop from a year ago, the financial services company said. There's a downside to the Fed's rate cuts. It's for savers who have enjoyed high rates for savings accounts and CDs. I want to know where you're getting a high rate savings account. But even before the Fed's September 18th rate cut, banks were reducing their savings rates, according to financial data company Carinos. More than half of traditional banks had cut their CD rates in anticipation of the rate cut, while 1/3 had cut their rates in savings accounts, the company said. But those reductions were relatively small, with most cutting by 0.1 percentage points or less, it found. While savers have likely missed the rate peak, it can still be a good time to seek these accounts, Schultz of LendingTree said. For instance, several banks are offering high-yield savings accounts with APYs of 4.85%. That's down from a peak of 5% or more prior to the rate cut, but still a relatively robust offer. So, a lot of things going with that. It's probably more of a vote buy than anything. And regretfully, without either improving the supply of houses in the market by mass deportation, which I don't necessarily agree with, or higher building rates, which I do agree with, you're going to run into the same problem here where people can get the money for cheaper and then can go run out and afford more of a mortgage, and then bada bing, bada fucking boom, your housing prices balloon again. Which is great for people whose only asset is their home, but for the rest of us trying to get into the market, you can see where we have some problems with this. Fed's jumbo interest rate cut puts the U.S. on track for a soft landing, Goldman CFO says. Again, this is all politicking on your finances. The Federal Reserve's move to lower interest rates by 50 points puts the U.S. economy on track for a soft landing, according to Goldman Sachs Chief Financial Officer Dennis Coleman. His comments come as market participants question whether the U.S. Central Bank's jumbo cut has been delivered in time to bring down inflation without pushing the economy into a recession. I would argue that we're already in a recession, but numerically it doesn't look like we're in a recession. But also, again, when I look at the housing prices, I look at this and see this is going to increase inflation. As the money velocity increases, but people stop feeling the pinch as they go into the polling booth in 45 days. I don't think we're there yet for the rate cut. And this is coming from somebody who has a vested interest in seeing a rate cut. I think this first 50 basis point cut is a clear signal in terms of the new direction, and hopefully that will unlock incremental amounts of confidence and should obviously reduce cost of capital and perhaps for some more strategic activity heading into the end of the year, Coleman told CNBC's Annette Weisbach on Tuesday. See, and this is the problem with this right now. We've seen this happen over and over again. The Fed has cut rates since the inflation started going on the rise. They get a month of, quote, relatively flat inflation, which for them meant 0.3 or 0.5% month over month from the month before. They'd get a month of that and they say, okay, well, it's time to bring the rate down a quarter point, half point, etc. And then inflation would increase the immediate following month as people were able to get cash for cheaper and capital for cheaper, and the money velocity went up without wages increasing to match. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan says, put me on the cautious side. Oh, sorry, I got an itch on my back. I'm a long-term optimist. Short-term, I'm a little more skeptical than other people that everything's going to be great. Jamie Dimon sent an exclusive interview with CNBC TV18 released on Tuesday. Markets are pricing things like they're going to be great. Put me on the cautious side of that one, he added. Excuse me. So, we'll be watching that and seeing what happens with that, but I think it was too early still. On the other financial side of things, we've got a potential dock worker strike coming. From the Daily Wire, here's how a dock worker strike could upend the economy and the election. From my Reed Alordi. Don't worry, it's not Starry, it's water. I just reused the Starry bottle. A looming dock worker strike could throw the economy and the presidential election into chaos. An October surprise that would likely hurt Democrats. This is going to be the funniest part too, because this is going to be the exact same reaction that we got with the rail strike that was coming right before the midterms. The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents about 85,000 dock workers nationwide, is threatening to strike on October 1st if the union cannot reach an agreement with port ownership. Negotiations broke down in June between the union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents port management. The two sides are in a stalemate over both wages and the automation of port operations. A strike would shut down North America's 5 of the 10 busiest ports. 36 ports total along the east and Gulf coasts, and cause massive supply chain issues, which, depending on how long the strike lasts, could impact consumers past Election Day and well into the holiday season. If the supply chain is upended like this, causing scarcities, we also are likely to see another nasty bout of inflation just as families are trying to recover from the nearly 20% spike in prices since the pandemic. The Biden admin has the power to stop strikes that could threaten national security or severely impact the economy. Yes, we know, we've seen that. But the White House has said it will not intervene in a dock worker strike and is encouraging the two sides to get back to the negotiating table. If it gets down to the wire and we start to see a strike, we can, and history shows us we will, but I don't have a crystal ball and I'm only going by historical statistics. See the Biden admin come back to the dock workers and say, you're not allowed to strike, get the fuck back out there and work. You know how I know that? They did it to the rail. They did it at the rail union. Because it was politically inconvenient. Yes, the Biden admin will bust a strike if it's politically inconvenient. The global economic turmoil wrought by a strike of this size cannot be overstated. Which, one thing to keep in mind is that we already have one port shut down right now because they're trying to put a bridge back in front of it. The Port of Maryland, as far as I know, is still not open. The ports that would be affected move nearly half of all U.S. imports and billions of dollars in trade each month. The ripple effects on supply chains in Europe, Asia, and Latin America would also be significant. None of this is likely good for Democrats. Election day is only 6 weeks away, and Harris is locked in a nail-biter of a race against former President Trump. Harris is currently leading by 2 points, a smaller lead than Clinton had in 2016 before losing to Trump. A strike would begin on October 1st, the day that of the vice presidential debate between Walz and Vance. Even the threat of a strike causing economic uncertainty at a time when the economy is not exactly Democrats' strongest issue. About 60% of Americans disapproved of Biden's handling of the economy in June. Harris is only just starting to catch up on Trump's approval rating on the issue. So, this is going to get interesting. I might have to go off keto for this, because I might have to get some popcorn for this. What day is the first on, by the way? It's on a Tuesday, which means we'll get the breaking news if they go on strike or not, right here on Contemporary. And that is, they said, the same day as the... Yeah, the same day. So we'll also be doing the debate right here on this channel while this is happening. And Paramount Global also in the news of everything is fantastic economically. Paramount Global starts round 2 of layoffs, aiming to cut $500 million from Amanda Harding. Paramount Global initiated a second round of planned layoffs on Tuesday in an effort to reduce overall company costs by $500 million. The layoffs will be 90% complete following Tuesday's cuts, a report from Deadline stated. An insider told the outlet that most of the layoffs would be in the streaming division, while previous cuts were made in the advertising section of Paramount. The entertainment giant had 21,900 full and part-time employees in 33 countries by the end of 2023. Along with 4,500 project-based employees, 3% of those employees were laid off last year. Paramount execs announced in August the entertainment conglomerate will cut 15% of its U.S. workforce, about 2,000 employees, ahead of a planned merger with Skydance Media. Deadline also published a copy of the internal memo from the company co-CEOs George Cheeks, Chris McCarthy, and Brian Robbins that was sent out on Tuesday. But don't worry, everything's fine. 45 days before an election, 2,000 people in the entertainment industry are getting laid off. But the economy is fantastic, folks. I think we're going to get into the shutdown stuff. And then I do want to talk about the National Guard stuff. We might have to skip the rest of it here. I can do a quick overview of the rest of it. But this one I really want to get to, because I've got 2 articles that are showing it. But first, the shutdown. From CNN, U.S. government begins preparations for a partial shutdown with 1 week until deadline despite agreement. From Betsy Klein and Tammy Luby. The clock is ticking towards the September 30th deadline to fund the government, and even with a possible deal to avert a lapse in funding. Parts of the U.S. government will start the behind-the-scenes process of preparing for a potential shutdown. By the way, also coming up on this coming Tuesday. Well, technically the shutdown would be on Monday at midnight, so going into Tuesday. On Sunday, Mike Johnson laid out in a letter to his members to plan to vote this week to avert a shutdown, and Democratic leaders praised bipartisan negotiations appearing on board with such a plan, barring any last-minute changes. Still, with roughly a week until the deadline, the standard procedures laying out the steps towards bringing non-essential government functions to a halt will soon get underway for all federal government departments and agencies, an admin official told CNN. 1 week prior to the expiration of appropriations bills, regardless of whether the enactment of appropriations appears imminent, Office of Management of Budget will communicate with agency senior officials to remind agencies of their responsibilities to review and update orderly shutdown plans, and will share draft communications template to notify employees of the status of appropriations, according to a document from White House's Office of Management and Budget. That standard guidance will be circulated Monday, 7 days before a shutdown could occur, so yesterday. Every department and agency has its own set of plans and procedures. Those plans include information on how many employees will get furloughed, which employees are essential and would work without pay, how long it would take to wind down operations in the hours before the shutdown, and which activities would come to a halt. The worst part about a government shutdown is they open the fucker back up. Prior shutdowns have forced the closure of some national parks and monument facilities. And legitimately nothing else. Threaten nutrition assistance to low-income Americans and cause flight delays. With Johnson's letter, lawmakers appear to have an agreement for a short-term stopgap bill known as continuing resolution. Without unanimous agreement in the Senate, it's possible for lawmakers to drag the process up until and beyond the clock striking midnight on October 1st. Should lawmakers fail to pass a funding bill, millions of federal workers and military personnel will be affected by a shutdown. Not really, because they'll all get back pay. There'll be a political pawn. Some 872,000 federal workers could be furloughed, based on a review of agencies' latest contingency plans, the majority of which are from September 2023, and Rachel Snyderman, Managing Director for Economic Policy at the nonprofit Bipartisan Policy Center. So, my usual gripes with this. First off, why are there people who are paid on taxpayer dime working for the government that are non-essential? Why can't we streamline this down to only essential employees? Think of how many more people would wind up in the private sector and how many of these jobs would be filled. Now, of course, the price of labor would probably drop because, well, now you're flooded with people. And now the expensive people who had to get hired at a premium because they couldn't find anybody else are now on the chopping block because somebody's willing to come in and work for less for those same jobs. It sure as hell bring inflation down, unfortunately, in a way that would probably be hurtful to the American economy on top of it. But just imagine that. You go into your employer and your employer says, oh yeah, you're non-essential. Go the fuck home. In the private sector, most of us would give our employer the finger at that point. Non-essential workers on the taxpayer dime. Come the fuck on. Let's look at the plan. Johnson rolls out Plan B to avert government shutdown. From Emily Brooks, Michael Schnell, and Eris Folly. House GOP leaders on Sunday unveiled a plan to keep the government funded for 3 months after Johnson's opening gambit to avoid a shutdown failed due to opposition from Republicans. The CR, which has the result of bipartisan negotiations in the House and Senate, should keep the government funded at current levels through December 20th, setting up a holiday funding fight. And this is what I was afraid of. And, of course, this is Mike Johnson fucking cucking. The 3-month time frame is shorter than Johnson's opening offer of a 6-month stopgap. And the bill notably excludes a Trump-backed measure requiring proof of citizenship to vote, which that shouldn't have been what you hitched your wagons to begin with. Republican leaders are aiming to bring the bill up under a regular rule process with a floor vote on the legislation by Wednesday, according to GOP aides. It would then head to the Senate ahead of the September 30th shutdown deadline. Johnson warned Republicans against a shutdown in a Dear Colleague letter on Sunday. While this is not the solution any of us prefer, it's the most prudent path forward under the present circumstances, as history has taught. And current polling affirms shutting the government down less than 40 days from a fateful election would be an act of political malpractice, Johnson said, citing a McLaughlin and Associates survey that found 2/3 of likely voters oppose a government shutdown. The bill also directs $231 million to go to the Secret Service, which has again come under scrutiny in the wake of an apparent second assassination attempt against former President Trump. Here is the problem. The first problem is that Mike Johnson is 100% correct in this. I can't believe I just had to say those words, but Mike Johnson is 100% correct in this. If you go into Election Day shortly after a government shutdown, as a Republican, you're fucked. If you go into Election Day as a Democrat, even having caused the government shutdown, the mainstream media will still run out and scream, "Evil Republicans shut the government." Even if Schumer wipes his ass with the spending bill on national television and says, "Well, I'm not going to sign this," the mainstream media is still going to scream, "Evil Republicans." That much is true. Where the problem is, and again, it's going to come back on Republicans. There should have been a harder fight to take this out until March. Past inaugurations, past Election Day, past anything else. Because we've got the holiday fight then again, where everybody's trying to get their last minute pet projects in, whether or not they're getting the political outcome that they want or not. This should have been pushed out until long after election season. But Mike Johnson has no political capital, and he fucking knows it too. That's the worst part. So we're going to get this bloated spending continuing resolution, and there's really not a whole lot that any of us can do about it, unfortunately. Alright, the last thing I want to talk about in main news before we go over to things I like and things that I hate comes to us. This was not covered by mainstream media. Weird. At leading a report, breaking, Trump did in fact notify top Pentagon officials of his desire for National Guard deployment on January 6, according to transcripts. So this comes from House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight, so the Oversight Committee, with Barry Loudermilk. And then I've got another page from the House that goes with this. Previously concealed by the Biden-Harris admin's Department of Defense, the subcommittee has uncovered statements by key personnel involved in the deployment of the D.C. National Guard to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. These new transcripts indicate that senior Pentagon officials unnecessarily delayed the D.C. National Guard response to the Capitol on January 6th due to optics concerns. The DoD IG, Inspector General, claims that the actions of the Pentagon were reasonable in light of the circumstances at the Capitol on January 6th. The Inspector General also determined that the DoD officials did not delay or obstruct the DoD's response to the U.S. Capitol. Police request for assistance on January 6th. The transcripts reveal otherwise. So, and we've got 2 pages of different transcripts for this. Mark Milley, Chairman, Joint Chiefs, January 3rd. The President says, "Hey, look at this. There's going to be a large amount of protesters here on the 6th. Make sure that you have sufficient National Guard of soldiers to make sure it's a safe event." President quoted saying, "Hey, I don't care if you use Guard or soldiers. Active duty soldiers, do whatever you have to. Just make sure it's safe." Christopher Miller, Acting Secretary of Defense, The president commented that they were going to need 10,000 troops the following day. I interpreted it as a bit of presidential banter, or President Trump banter that you're all familiar with, and in no way, shape, or form did I interpret it as an order or direction. On January 6th, everyone was like, did you listen to the president's speech? I'm like, the guy speaks for 90 minutes. It's like Castro or something. No, I've got work to do. I was cognizant of the fears that the president would invoke the Insurrection Act to politicize the military in an anti-democratic manner, and just before Electoral College certification, 10 former secretaries of defense signed an op-ed piece published by the Washington Post warning the dangers of politicizing and using inappropriately for the military. No such thing was going to occur on my watch. There is absolutely no way I was putting U.S. military forces at the Capitol, period. The operational plan was this: let's take the D.C. National Guard, keep them away from the Capitol. Stephen's son, I'm making an urgent request for the National Guard. We're being overrun. I gave a quick rundown of what we had going on, and that officers are fighting for their lives. We were going to be taken over. The representatives from the Secretary of the Army said, I don't like the optics of the National Guard standing in line with the Capitol in the background. I explained to them that the building is being breached. I need their assistance immediately. General Piat said, my recommendation is the Secretary of the Army is to not support the request. Commander General William Walker of the National Guard, my thoughts are that there has to be something else at play here. Why is there such concern about the proximity to the Capitol? We hadn't done that before. General Piat said at 2:42 p.m., it would not be in his best military advice to send the National Guard to the U.S. Capitol at this time. Military presence could make the situation worse, and optics are bad. And it goes on and on and on about this, and mostly it's about the optics from the people that are quoted. So I look at this, and I look at this in two different directions. And by the way, I'm going to put this in the Discord as a PDF. I'll hold off on that for now, but I'll put that in the Discord after the stream as a PDF. If you guys want to go have a look at that. As far as this goes, the optics, the thing with that, it's true. We don't really want to have, and that was one of the big problems that I had with the idea of bringing out the military for something like this, is the fact of, now you've got the president with the command over the military, using the military against U.S. civilians. Now, mind you, if we listen to the narrative that the January 6th committee has brought out, it's the president using the military against his own supporters. I don't know where that would go over, or if it's the president using the military against agitators in the crowd. I don't know. But there is a reason the Insurrection Act was not used during the Summer of Love. And it is the fact that, okay, perceivably during the George Floyd riots, we'd be using the military against who were political adversaries at the time. And yes, the mainstream media was waiting for the Insurrection Act to be called so they could say that he's become a dictator, he's militarized the country, it's all over, he's going to put us all in prison, this and that and the next thing. Now, with all that being said, with one of the few responsibilities that the president had to protect the Capitol at something like this, he did request that people be there to make sure that the Capitol was also safe. None of this implicates Pelosi in any of this, which has been the big political attack point that we've had from the beginning. But it also shoots a hole in the narrative that Trump didn't try to stop any of this. From the Committee on House Administration, from Chairman Brian Stile, who used to be my rep. Transcripts show President Trump's directive to Pentagon leadership to keep January 6th safe were deliberately ignored. Committee on House Admin Subcommittee on Oversight Chairman Barry Loudermilk revealed that days before January 6, 2021, Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders, urging them to do their jobs to protect lives and property. Transcripts released show Trump gave senior Pentagon leadership directives to keep January 6th peaceful, including using the National Guard, which the Pentagon leaders ignored. This revelation directly contradicts the conclusions drawn by the flawed DoD IG report on January 6, 2021. And this goes on with the transcripts again. Pentagon leadership prioritized concerns of optics over their duty to protect lives, said Chairman Loudermilk. Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders and directed them to make sure that any events on January 6 were safe. It's very concerning that these senior Pentagon officials ignored President Trump's guidance and misled the congressional leaders to believe that they were doing their job when they were not. The DoD IG's report is fundamentally flawed. It does not draw conclusions from the interviews they conducted, but pushes a narrative to keep their hands clean. We have many questions for them, and we will continue to dig until they're satisfied the American people know the truth. Does this change January 6th? As it sits, no, it does not. Does this implicate Pelosi? As it sits, it does not. But does it shoot a gigantic hole in the narrative that Trump just encouraged the violence and didn't want to stop it and wanted to see it going? Yeah, it shoots a gigantic hole in that narrative. So, and I'll get that PDF into the Discord for you guys here. And meanwhile, let's finish out the show and let's do some things that I like and some things that I hate. But we start as always with the rules of acquisition. Again, I don't know why that defaults over to that screen. Alright, we are on the 19th rule of acquisition. Satisfaction is not guaranteed. This is from Beta Canon. So I have not indeed read this book. I don't know how this was used in context. But it is very important when we're working in profit, and gaining the profit is you can't please everybody all at once. It's kind of like in the movie we're going to be looking at for the movie trailer for Things That I Like Today. It's the guarantee. You can put a fancy guarantee on the box. You go in there, you personally guarantee, you feel safe. How does he put it? You put that box underneath the pillow and the guarantee fairy comes by and collects it and leaves 25 cents. But next thing you know, maybe the guarantee fairy is a crack addict. And now you got money missing off the dresser and your daughter's knocked up. You can make a good product. You can stand behind your product. But somebody who's looking for something wrong, especially somebody who's trying to deny you a profit, is going to find something wrong. Satisfaction cannot always be guaranteed. You do your best. You try to get your profit. But somebody's going to find something to complain about at some point here. Alright, now let's do some things that I like and a bunch of things that I hate. Thing that I like. I've actually watched this movie twice in a week. Because Pom and I watched it together, and then we introduced the kid to it, who didn't quite get the adult themes of the movie, but did enjoy the slapstick, I will say. Very much enjoyed the slapstick. I'm, of course, talking about the movie starring Wisconsin native Chris Farley, Tommy Boy. The story of a person who fell into a big pile of money, but also fell into a big pile of responsibility, and while it looked like he was about to fail, really carried through at the end. If you have not seen this movie, what the hell's wrong with you? I mean, I'll admit that it took me a while to see this movie because I didn't watch a lot of movies, but even I saw this before I turned 30. Let's watch the classic trailer for Tommy Boy. Dial that back a little bit.
Holy shnikes.
Is that for me?
No, son, that's for me.
You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
There's always has been, always will be, a family firm.
Oh, son of a...
Someday my son will run it.
Luke, I am your father.
Aw, I've interrupted happy time.
That's my name.
Yeah, that's your new office now. Whoa.
Do we really want to put the future of the company in Tommy's hands?
Promise me you'll look after Tommy boy here till he gets his feet wet.
Sure, and thanks for choosing me. Hey, Tommy, this is not a vacation for me. I'm out here against my will, so the least you can do is pretend to work. Ugh, I can actually hear you getting fatter. All right, it's sale time, so remember, we don't take...
No for an answer.
No.
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna pass.
Gotcha, thanks. Oh, son of a... That's gonna leave a mark.
Okay, let's check you out. All right.
That's a clip, huh?
Hi, are you sure?
Can't breathe.
He's a big dumb animal, isn't he, folks?
No, son of a... What'd you do? I'm a maniac on the floor.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid?
Why?
Alright, I gotta move the phone here for just a sec to find the exit full screen button. Yeah, fantastic movie. That was probably one of the peak Farley movies with his peak slapstick. Definitely peak Farley. And peak snark David Spade. I know after Farley died, David Spade turned into more of the... He tried to do some of the slapstick stuff, and Joe Dirt, I mean, it was a great movie, but... I mean, that was not David Spade. I could have seen Joe Dirt as a number of other actors. And if you haven't seen that movie, what the fuck are you waiting for? If you haven't seen it for a while, go back and watch it again. It's great. Like I said, I just watched it for the first time, or twice in a week. So, alright, let's do some other things that I like. So Harris wants to come back and have another debate. I don't usually say things that I like about Harris. Excuse me for just 1 second. Sorry, a little bit of tickle on the throat there. I don't usually come out to say, yes, I like a lot of the stuff that the Harris campaign does. Because, I mean, she's uniquely evil enough in my eyes that, hey, I'm probably going to vote Trump. God help me. I still can't believe I'm saying that out loud. And that I intend to follow through with it. That's the scarier part. But she got a big dick about the last debate, and she thinks that she wants another one. And I support this. I actually do. I think that she should. I think that he should. And then I think that he should come back out and say, you know what? I want a third one. Give me another debate. Let's have a town hall where people can go ask questions. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, too. Yes, absolutely. Schedule a rematch. Have a third debate. Debate more. She thinks that she's going to go on to friendly networks, too. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but... And if they schedule it, it will show up right here on this channel still. Other things that I like, speaking of the Donald. In what I consider to be a tremendous act of private charity, even though our friends in the mainstream media have found a way to twist it into this is a bad thing. Trump helps a mom of three pay for her groceries. Now, I don't like this based on the fact that we're in a position where you have to. I like the fact that he's pulling this out of his own pocket to do so instead of, using taxpayer funding to do it. But I hate the fact that we're in a position that we've got to do that. And I also do hate the fact that our friends in the mainstream media have nothing better to do than say that this is nothing but a vote buy. Let's watch the video.
Take the rest of it. Here, it's going to go down a little bit. It just went down $100.
Thank you so much.
We'll do that for you from the White House, all right?
Thank you.
All right, bye. Nice seeing you, everybody.
God bless you.
Beautiful. They're your kids?
Yeah, they are. 3 boys.
Perfecto. Perfecto. 3 for 3. Bye, everybody. Take the rest of it.
And that, of course, in a bit of a viral moment here, Fox Business with the details. Trump gives mom of $300 towards grocery bill at Pennsylvania market store. And part of the reason that I do agree with the Newsweek article that this is a bit of a vote buy is the fact that this is in a very, very much battleground state, admittedly. Stephanie Price, a mother of 3, was surprised by a generous gift from former President Trump while she was shopping at a local grocery store in Pennsylvania. Hundreds of people lined up outside of Sprinkles neighborhood market in Kittening, where Trump greeted shoppers and even gifted one woman some relief for her grocery bill. Now, again, one of the other issues that I have with this is we don't know what this woman's situation was. Whether she was actually struggling. I mean, we're all struggling a little bit with the pricing. But whether, this was an actual... She's looking at this wondering, okay, how do I afford all this? Or if this was a high-end middle-classer who just got $100 of free money. Here, it's going to go down a bit, Trump said to the shopper. He is then seen handing the woman, who's identified as a mother of 3 by his communications team, a $100 bill. It just went down $100. We'll do that for the White House, all right? Trump said as he waved goodbye and thanked everyone for their support. Trump also supported the business by purchasing a large bag of popcorn. I think he could have done better than that, but again, I see where he's coming from this. Oh, look, I gotta get some. We gotta get it, Trump smiles while handing over the large bag to his team. My mom just got a bag of that, actually, a customer tells the former president. Is this stuff good? Trump asked. She says it's the best, he responds. Is that the best? If it is, I'll be sending it. I'll be in Washington, D.C., hopefully in the Oval Office. I'll send for popcorn, Trump said. The former president spoke with the owner of the grocery store, who explained how inflation was affecting his business. So Sprinkles, I'm guessing, is a local conglomerate, which is probably in fear of being bought out or shut down by the local Meijer or Walmart or etc. Because I've never heard of this one before. It's sad that we have to be in this position, because I used to be able to walk into the Woodman's making $25,000 less than I do now and just load up the cart and not think about it. Now I've actually got to think about it. And yes, Newsweek, of course. Trump buying groceries goes viral, but it might be a vote buy. Alright, other things that I like. So I like this topically, even though I don't want government assistance. I like the fact that people are being made aware of the challenges in recycling plastic bags, especially gathering them up to recycle them, versus going with paper bags, of course, which paper bags I do consider to be the superior choice in bagging situations. But Newsom signs a law banning all plastic shopping bags at grocery stores. This is a tremendous amount of government overreach, but it is showing something that's actually environmental at the same time. So he's doing a thing that I like. To do something that I've been telling him to do forever is actually do something that would affect the environment, which this would. Paper or plastic will no longer be a choice at grocery store checkout lines in California under a new law signed by Gavin Newsom that bans all plastic shopping bags. California had already banned thin plastic shopping bags at supermarkets and other stores, but shoppers could purchase bags made with thicker plastic that purportedly made them reusable and recyclable. Menards uses these bags, by the way, here in Wisconsin. And I like them for that. The new measure, approved by state legislators this month, bans all plastic shopping bags starting in 2026. Consumers who don't bring their own bags will now simply be asked if they want a paper bag. So, as far as plastic bags go, they have their time and place, but I mean, they fall off the rack, they get lost, sometimes they get completely unused, they almost never get thrown in the recycling. So, when I look at something like this, I think that this is indeed a good thing for the environment. Government overreach aside, and we can talk about government overreach to begin with, because I do think that you should have your choice, whether or not you want to help the environment. So that's one of the things that I don't like about this, but you're actually doing something that will help, so I'm torn on this one. You know what's funny about the plastic bags is that they were presumed to be more easily recyclable, which realistically they are more easily recyclable. But that involves everybody actually gathering up and doing something and not losing a single one. Whereas with a paper bag, if you lose it, or it flies away or something going down the road and it gets stuck in a lake or something else, it'll be mush within the day and it'll be a part of the biosphere again, in a good way, within the week. Or the plastic bag will float around and become a part of the biosphere in 10,000 years. I use paper as much as I can. I know the one store that I go to and I went to earlier today doesn't offer paper, but I don't typically go there, and I typically only go to places that do run paper as an option, and a primary too. I go to Woodman's Markets here in Wisconsin. It's a local company, and they default to paper, which I would much rather have. And you can use it for a ton of other things too, instead of just, like, the plastic bags I do have, I use for garbage bags because it's just me in a tiny place and I spend half my time with Palm anyway, so, like, it's not worth me using a tall kitchen bag in here. If I gotta take garbage out, I hang a plastic bag up on a chair, I fill it up, and I take it out every couple days. Then it fills up faster, it doesn't stink, and I don't use a bunch of wasted space when it does start to stink and I have to take it out early. And that's about the only thing I can think of for those as being reusable after the fact. I suppose I do use them as a lunch bag too, because I'm cheap and I'm not going to go out and buy a full lunch bag. So I use them for that until they fall apart, and then I put them back in another bag and I bring them out to recycle. But yeah, your paper bag is far superior, and the plastic bags came out because, it takes so much energy to recycle a paper bag. No, it doesn't. Just let the fucking thing biodegrade. Other things that I like, even Tim Walz has got into it. Even Tim Walz recognizes how hard it is for us. Now, I think that he is, of course, trying to say that we can't afford 4 more years of Trump. But that's not what he said. Do you want to know what he said? Let's listen.
We can't afford 4 more years of this. We can't afford 4 more years of this.
We can't afford 4 more years of this. Truer words have never been spoken. And that's coming from a politician. Alright, I gotta swap those because apparently I put a thing that I hate after a thing that I like. In a bit of a sad note, but the fact that this is actually still going makes me a little bit happy. I kind of wish I was able to get to this one before it went completely under. It's the end of an institution in this country. Attention Kmart shoppers. The last full-size Kmart in the mainland US is closing. From Chris Isidore over at CNN. Kmart, once one of America's leading discount retailers, is closing its last full-size store in the mainland US. The store in Bridgehampton, New York on Long Island is due to close on October 20th. According to an employee who answered the phone on the store on Monday, which honestly I thought that they were gone long ago. I didn't think that they were still running. The manager of the store was not available, and the corporate owner, Transformco, the company that bought the remains of Sears and Kmart out of bankruptcy of Sears Holdings in 2019, did not return an email requesting comment. The chain still has a small convenience store version of itself in Miami, but not the full line of offerings that Kmart was once known for. That location does have some larger ticket goods, though, such as appliances. It also has stores in Guam and the U.S. Virgin Islands, where it does not face competition from the more successful big box stores. Still, the Long Island store closing will close one more chapter in the disastrous 2005 merger of Sears and Kmart, one of the numerous iconic retailers killed after the purchases by hedge funds and private equity firms. The $11 billion merger was engineered by hedge fund operator Eddie Lampert. The stores were also doomed by competition with more successful big box competitors such as Walmart and Target, which I can't believe Target is still a viable competitor. Walmart owns like everything, dude. Which offered shoppers groceries as well as clothing, household goods, and tools sold at Kmart and Sears, along with the growth of online shopping. Oh, Dual Helix showed up. She kept the $100 bill. She said she's going to frame it. Probably won't stay framed very long. It's $100 is $100. She was related to people who ran the store. I got to pay more attention to Rumble in the middle of videos, apparently. They banned plastic bags here in Colorado like 2 years ago. It's PETA. Always got to remember my reusable bags. Now I just got a fucking wagon. I want to get a wagon. But like a Caprice wagon. Or a Crown Vic wagon, not a red wagon. I always reuse my grocery bags as trash bags, which you buy anyway. It's stupid. You buy trash bags. Plastic bags are made from all natural materials. Plastic bags like 10 years. They're basically gone. The Kmart building in my local neighborhood has been a Salvation Army for like 10 years. The one over in the next big city over by where I live, which is La Crosse, Wisconsin. I don't live in La Crosse, but I live close enough that that's our major metro area. There's the shell of a Kmart over there, but it's empty. I used to drive by it all the time. They all turned into thrift stores. That shit is a racket too, totally free inventory. Yeah. But they also donate a lot of what they get to charity too. Or at least the ones that I know of. At the time of the 2005 merger, Kmart had about 1,400 stores and Sears had nearly 900 full-line U.S. stores. I thought it was more than that. Lampert appeared more focused on selling off real estate, and the two companies had, along with other assets such as Craftsman brand of tools, previously sold only at Sears rather than investing in either chain, leading to a bankruptcy filing in 2018. When the retailer emerged from bankruptcy, it still had 231 Sears and 191 Kmart stores, but those were also almost all doomed. Today, only a handful of Sears stores remain. The one in Kenosha is dead, I know that. So, it was the end of an era. I don't remember where the Kmart was that I was in the town that I went to growing up. And I asked Palm about that earlier too, and she couldn't remember where it was either. I'll have to ask my dad about that later. Because it's going to drive me nuts. I remember it being there, because my dad would always call it Kmart, and we went there all the goddamn time. But I don't remember where it was. And I think it was out of business by the time I had a driver's license. Alright, one more thing that I like and we'll move on to some things that I hate. GOP makes a play for the Amish in key battleground state. This, of course, is Pennsylvania. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these people themselves are not Amish because, well, if you'll remember correctly from the true Amish religion, these are probably Mennonite. But truly from the Amish religion, these people would believe that their soul would be taken by a camera. So I don't think that these are particularly Amish. Conservatives are making a play for the Amish votes in Pennsylvania, a key battleground state for both former President Trump and VP Harris are desperately trying to capture. Amish Americans generally stay out of mainstream politics despite recent efforts from Republicans who see the conservative and religious residents as allies and an untapped voting bloc. When Amish people do vote, they overwhelmingly register as Republicans. I want you to know that recording the Amish vote, conservative activist Scott Presler said at a political conference, the Amish, if they are mobilized, could literally save Western civilization. Based. Presler is leading the stronger, renewed effort to capture the Amish vote in this election cycle, especially in Pennsylvania, where 87,000 Amish reside. He said Amish people he's spoken to are receptive to mail-in ballots. When I go to the Amish, I tell them they can have private secret ballot that is sent to their homes, and they don't have to drive their buggy to town and go to a polling location and have that stigma from their community. They love the idea of mail-in ballots, Presler said, and how epic would it be if a tool of the Democrats was used in order to get the Amish vote and win and elect Donald J. Trump. Now, there are arguments that I can see for bringing the Amish in, especially given the utter disdain the Democrat Party has for Christianity. Now, voting for Trump, I cannot see a lot of Amish being on board with. I'll come fully right out and say that. Philanderer, adulterer, divorcee, etc. But one of the big things with him is that, presumably, he would leave them alone to practice their religion. And there's a large untapped potential for taxable income from Democrats if they outlaw religion or tax the churches. So there are a few things that go along with that. I support this. Mostly because, again, I want the Amish to have the option, if they want to be left alone. Alright, now let's do a few things that I hate. The first thing that I hate that I'm going to use... God damn it. Well, I guess I'll have to do this one from memory then, because apparently the X over there just fucked me over. But we had a long article. Let me see if I can go back in the Discord and find it. But we had a long article here talking about the whistleblower from ABC. Let me see if I can find this again. Sorry, I was kind of reading this as I went. Because I do want to talk about that. Newsom. Other thing that I hate. Fuck, how far back was that? I don't know if I have that in articles. I think I got that from somewhere else. That's lame. Anyway, where I was going with that was the fact that on an article like what I just had up on the screen here before I stupidly X back out of it, was the fact that... Is it here? No, it's not here. That's the plastic bags one. Fuck, I lost that one. There it is. I found it. Alright. Is the linguistic propaganda. Now, I don't know, again. I don't know if this affidavit, if this whistleblower report is true. And, you know, I've heard various different arguments whether or not, okay, well, now the person died in a car wreck and now this person was killed by the Democrats or this or that, the next thing. But the affidavit, we talked about this last week and I said, again, big if true, but I need to see more evidence of this, is that allegedly, there's a whistleblower out there with a report that shows that ABC News gave the questions, at least sample questions, to Kamala that were nearly identical to the questions that were asked in the debate. And she was prepped on what the answers should be, and also what fact checks would be going against Trump. Now, while we are still out here looking for this, and I will take this with a grain of salt as it goes, but typically when I see mainstream media outlets that say lacks evidence, unsubstantiated, unconfirmed rumors, this and that, and the next thing coming from a mainstream media outlet source, typically it winds up being true. There's no evidence to support claims that an alleged ABC News whistleblower exists or that the affidavit they are said to have is written is authentic. Again, typically, when I look at some of this, I see, hey, this is what you say about everything else that winds up being true. Also, I love this. Could cyber ninjas have done something nefarious to voting machines during audit? Which tells me that Arizona is probably not going to go the way that these people want it to. Other things that I hate from KHOU11, former FBI agent in Houston convicted of stealing from multiple homes while serving search warrant. Why? Because of course he did. Now, hashtag not all FBI agents, but realistically, when you've got a major federal force who is typically sending agents in from not in your local area, there's less chance that these people, again, and this is where I go when I talk about politicians and cops, is that your politicians, I don't like federal politicians. I think that people should be voting more on their aldermen and their state reps, is because you should have, your politicians should have to see you in the grocery store. And your cop should have to see you in the grocery store. And when we sit here and look at federal agencies and federal politicians that have people go and do their shopping for them and barely ever go back to their districts, they can make laws and enforce laws in many cases, and then never see these person in plain civilian clothes. Just go back home to wherever they go, or in the FBI and federal politicians' cases, go back to DC, and never have to see the little people again. This guy is actually facing some sort of consequences. How many of them are not? This one bothered me. Full disclosure on what you're about to see here. I am a Paramore fan. I very much enjoy the music of Paramore. Decode is probably one of my favorite of their songs. Even though I've never seen the Twilight movies, Decode is still probably one of my favorite of their songs, and they've got a bunch of them that I like. But I looked at, when I first saw this video clip, and I hadn't even watched the clips, I just seen another mutual follow of mine on Instagram she had posted about the fact that Haley Williams had done this. And she is a Bernie bro, so she's all excited over the fact that she had done this. And I mean, this is scripted on top of it too, but my big problem with this is I say we just give the Donald one more term so he can't run again, so that the people like this can go develop a personality again, instead of having their entire personality be, I hate Donald Trump. Listen to me while I tell you how much I hate Donald Trump. Palm says, I didn't know Contemporary was still going. Yeah, we got a couple things that I hate left, so just got done with dance class. I did a toe touch. Good job. It isn't X's job to fuck you over. Yeah, they still do it, though. Alright, anyway, let's listen to the scripted DNC speech from Haley Williams.
Project 2025 is Donald Trump's playbook for controlling
Lie.
women,
Lie.
people,
Lie.
people of color,
Lie.
LGBTQ+ community.
Lie.
It is time for all Americans to band together and to finally defeat the Trump agenda.
Lie.
To that is right in front of him at the polls. Do you
reading a script.
Project 2025.
And I mean, for me, I've always had the same opinion of boycotting everything out there. Like, if I had to boycott every musical artist that doesn't agree with me politically, I'd be sitting in silence all the goddamn time. I'd only be able to listen to Tim. Well, no, I don't agree with Tim Pool half the time either. I like the art. I can't stand the fact that the artist has to go back and use a platform. And again, my thoughts on, celebrity influencing people to vote. I have never changed my mind on who to vote for based on what a celebrity has said. As much as I enjoy the music, Hayley Williams is vapid shallow and hasn't had to deal with what the rest of us have had to deal with for 20 years. Trust me, these people have not been fueled by ramen since 2003. That's just the name of their record label now. It's symbolic at this point. In other things that I hate, sitting Congress member who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, ready to tell us how the First Amendment doesn't count if you're spreading misinformation. Spoiler alert, she's wrong.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions.
You spew misinformation and disinformation all the goddamn time. I'm just smart enough to see through it.
But it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into. I do think that several members...
My biggest problem for free speech, it's not that I think that every bit of speech should be free based on the fact that it's freewheeling. I think that there are a lot of stupid people that I would rather not listen to and would rather they don't have a voice. But the problem that I have with it is that I don't trust myself to be the person that decides. And I really don't trust people like that to be the ones who decide. That's why I consider free speech to have to be absolute. Because it's the people who decide what's not free speech and what is free speech that scare me more. Because if it's an opinion that they don't like, then, oh, shoot, that's criminal. It's criminal for you to have that opinion. And I think that, yes, people should be more educated so they can look through and see the lies that these people come back out and do. Because they are lying. But a sycophant or a fan of AOC is going to sit here and gobble up her every word and say that everything that she says is misinformation is indeed misinformation without giving it a second thought. And it is her right to say it, because I'm not going to be the one that decides that, hey, you're not allowed to speak. But people like that are more than willing to be the ones that decide, hey, you're not allowed to speak because I don't like what it is that you say. This one. I can't quote what's on here. Because of how coarse the language is in this. And this is real, by the way. I looked this up. Alaska man is charged with a slew of threats to Supreme Court justices. So obviously I can't read this. And for those of you watching on the video platforms, you can see in the image why I can't read this. Where all the stars are and everything off of this. And where the dashes are in this. You can see why I can't read this. I will pick through what I can, though, Actually, I kind of have to get to why I hate this so much. Comfortably Smug posts this out and says, amazing that Politico is covering for the left, who has spent years radicalizing their base to attack the Supreme Court, which, by the way, I think that terrorist attack is coming too, somewhere in the near future. Then acts like Ketanji Brown Jackson could be the target of a left-wing lunatic when it's obvious the target was Justice Thomas and the conservative justices. So let's read some of this to what I can, and I will translate out some of the stuff that I can't read as best I can, and you can decide for yourself. I will give you the opportunity to decide whether or not they're talking about Thomas or Jackson. Many of the alleged threats were crude and racist, repeatedly using variants of the word N-word and making references to lynching. The individual justices and their family members targeted are not named in the indictment. The court has 2 black justices, Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Here is the quote, with the stuff that we can't say on YouTube censored out. You decide after you listen to this whether or not this person is talking about Thomas or Jackson. And I quote, YouTube, I'm going to call and urge my fellow Vietnam veterans to drive by name redacted's house with their AR-15, and when fucking name redacted and his piece of shit C-word wife are home, spray these disrespectful redacted for class with redacted for class, hopefully killing these redacted for class, hopefully N-word, name redacted, and his white trailer trash redacted loving insurrectionist wife are visiting. Now, do you think that is talking about Clarence Thomas or Ketanji Brown Jackson? I think you're smart enough to know the answer there, but Politico doesn't think you're smart enough to know the answer. And yes, by the way, this is a real article. This was not I had to look to see if this was real or not. It's real. All right, let's do a couple more and then we'll head out of here for the night. So the meme about Kamala Harris not dodging the questions and not being able to answer the questions, it's alive and real. And I've got 2 instances of it, and then Pelosi will close out the show here. Trump girl at MAGA Patriot X's out. The question is, we'd really love to know what your plan is to lower the cost of living. Here is Harris's answer.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to do.
Did you get any of that? We'll play that again just to see if you get anything. And good night to the small person.
A story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that.
You have the right to work hard and not be poor, and you know, I hear this story all the time, and trust me, this person has a plan. Paul A. Zeipla says this might be the worst word salad ever in the political career of Harris. The whole time you could feel Oprah wanted her to stop. The audience looks like they're realizing how gone Harris is her campaign won't let her do another one of these again. Which, by the way, you want to fucking bet? Let's listen.
We love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everybody's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom to make decisions about your own body, freedom to be safe from gun violence, freedom to have access to the ballot box, freedom to be who you are and just be, to love who you love openly and with pride, freedom to just be.
Freedom to just
And
be.
that's who we are. We believe in all that. And so this is a moment where we stand knowing what we are fighting for. We're not fighting against. It's what we're fighting for.
Did anybody get any of that? Alright. And the last one. Nancy Pelosi. Drew Hernandez. Nancy Pelosi is just straight up lying, claiming Democrats had an open primary after Biden was pressured to step out of the race. She's claiming that Harris won in the open primary. Not one person voted for Harris to be the nominee.
You had reportedly said you wanted a sort of an open primary if Joe Biden stepped down. Did you change your mind because you saw all the excitement around Kamala Harris?
No, I didn't change my mind. We had an open primary and she won it. Nobody else got in the race because she was politically astute and...
No, nobody else got in the race because you told them that you would end their political careers if they did. But you had no intention on doing an open primary anyway. Nobody voted for Harris as the nominee. There was no primary. I fear that if there was I don't fear, I know this would happen. If there was a primary, Harris wouldn't be the nominee again. And she would have dropped out with less than 1%. You know, just like the last time. Anyway, that's all that I have for right now. What a day. What a bunch of crap. Why do I keep doing this again? I don't remember. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm good at it and people kind of enjoy it. I'm always blackpilled by the end. And my biggest thing is I don't think it's going to get better after the election. I mean, maybe I'll be able to talk a bit more about music news and gardening and things like that, but maybe we'll play some more video games. But man, it's getting wild out there, folks. It is. I hope you've taken my advice. I hope that you've dropped 10 pounds. I'm actually down about 10 pounds right now myself. Drop 10 pounds, drop of ice, pick up a new skill, learn how to preserve some food, and get some stuff ready that doesn't need to be refrigerated. And you know, like I always say, with the beans, you can get a bunch of beans for stupid cheap. They're dry and they last forever. And if you never need them, you can have a really cool taco night one night. with all the beans that you have over there. And if you need them, you'll be thankful that you had them. Get some financial affairs in order if you've got them. Pay off some debts. Drop of ice. Pick up a new skill. And learn how to preserve some food and get some stuff ready, because let's face it, even if Harris wins, this is going to get to be a very, very interesting 4 years. And you should be ready no matter what. But I'm going to head out of here for the night. Let's throw some outro music up and let's go. Special thanks, of course, this evening to Ramus for composing this and letting me use it. Just because I said I liked it a lot. Anyway, I'm going to head out of here for the night. Thank you so much for everybody who came by and hung out in the chatter. We had Dual Helix over on the Rumble side. We had the Mogwai and Pomnuria. And Rohan419 over on the Twitch side. And all the other lurkers and listeners, because I've been watching the numbers bounce up and down throughout the night. So I know we've had some people lurking in here as well. I will be back here tomorrow night for something a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more colorful, and a little bit more fun. We will be continuing on Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, even though the Switch port doesn't have the subtitle on there. We'll be continuing on that. That's a good thing that was an empty case, because that just hit the floor. We'll be back on Friday for Fallout Friday again. That is, again, another one of my more exciting nights off of this, because, hey, if we're going to have a nuclear apocalypse, then we should prep for the nuclear apocalypse. And, well, I want to play some more here. And, I mean, there's a ton of other games that I want to play, both on and off stream as well. You know, being able to afford video games now with a decent salary. I've got a big-ass backlog of stuff that I want to play. Some of it we'll play together, some of it I'm not going to have time to play together with you, unfortunately, because we have only so many years in life. But I'll be playing it off stream, I can tell you that. Anyway, we'll be back here on Tuesday for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary, which we will be getting up close to the debate time. That is next week. We'll be doing the debate, the vice presidential debate, right after contemporary. Join me here for that. We will see you here for that. That'll be cut off from YouTube and all the copyrighted channels, so come and join me for that. Take care. Have a good night. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.